This story begins by telling us that sometimes music can be so beautiful and so powerful that it can bring people together, entire communities, even to the point of attracting evil. We're then introduced to Sammy, a young man carrying a guitar who appears to be injured as he arrives at a church where his father is the pastor. When his father sees him enter, he asks him to come closer, and once he does, he pleads with him to let go of the guitar. In another scene, we meet the brothers Stack and Smoke, two men originally from the same town. However, they had been away for many years, working in the city to earn money. Now they're back and ready to invest in their hometown. They also happen to be cousins of Sammy, the young man we saw at the beginning. They meet with a white man who seems ready to sell them a property. At first, the man is surprised to see them back, as it seems the twins are well known around town and hadn't returned in a long time. When they walk into the warehouse that's up for sale, they begin negotiating the price. They make it clear they don't want any tricks or for the seller to try to reclaim the property later, as they plan to turn the place into a bar and don't want any problems down the line. It's Sammy's day off, and he wants to enjoy music, but his father stops him and asks for help reciting a few verses for the next day's sermon. His father still hopes that Sammy will come closer to religion and leave music behind. Sammy responds that since it's his day off, he can use it however he wants. He leaves the church and runs into his cousin, who take him along and tell him a bit about their plan. They arrive at a hidden truck filled with all the things they bought to start furnishing the bar. Since they have a lot to take care of, Stack and Sammy head off in different directions, and Smoke takes the truck. When he gets to town to look for some old friends, he asks a girl nearby to watch the truck and honk the horn if anyone approaches. He tells her he'll pay her 20 cents per minute for the wait. She tries to negotiate, and they eventually settle on 30 cents per minute. Smoke goes to find a friend he's hired to provide the fish for that night's opening event. He tells him it should be enough for about 100 people. But just then, the horn starts honking, and Smoke rushes outside to see what's happening. He finds two guys snooping around the truck and shoots one of them, but the man immediately recognizes him. He admits the girl warned them the truck belonged to Smoke, but they didn't believe her since Smoke hadn't been seen in town for years. Smoke shoots the other thief as a warning to make it clear the Moore brothers are back and people better be careful. When he returns to his friend, he gives him cash to take the injured men to a doctor so they don't bleed out. Stack and Sammy are having a great time together as Stack compliments Sammy for taking good care of the guitar he gave him years ago. At that moment, Sammy takes the chance to play him a song. When they arrive at the station, they meet a man who's really good at playing the harmonic. Stack offers him a chance to play at the new bar they're opening, but at first the man refuses. That changes when Stack offers him a beer and says that if he agrees to play, he'll get all the beer he wants, plus $40. That convinces him. Right there, Sammy also meets a woman he finds very attractive, and Stack runs into a white woman named Mary, who came from far away looking for him. According to her, Stack promised her love when they were in the city. On top of that, her mother recently passed away, and she had taken good care of both Stack and his brother Smoke while they were living there. She says they didn't even bother to send flowers to the funeral. She's very hurt by all of this, but Stack acts coldly toward her, trying to get her to leave. Later, they go looking for Cornbread, a man who works in the fields with his wife. Stack tries to convince him to work security at the bar's entrance. At first, he refuses, but when Stack says he'll pay him well, Cornbread's wife helps persuade him. Meanwhile, Smoke visits a grave, his newborn baby's, who sadly passed away. There, he runs into his wife, a woman named Annie, whom he hasn't seen in a long time. It turns out Annie practices magic and fortune telling. She says she's been praying for him all these years, and now they've finally reunited. Smoke tells her he missed her deeply all this time, and they make peace. Then we see Remick, a man who's on the run and desperately knocking on a door. When someone finally opens it, he begs to be let in, saying he's being chased. A group of men shows up looking for him, warning that he's extremely dangerous. The homeowners threaten these men, who can only say, "May God protect you," because they don't know what they've gotten themselves into. Once the men leave and the woman goes back inside, she finds that Remick has killed her husband. He turns out to be a vamp. The night of the bar's grand opening arrives and the guests are all there, but Mary also shows up, the woman who still insists on seeing Stack. Sammy notices her and tries to ask her to leave to avoid causing trouble for his cousins on their big night. She convinces him to have a drink with her so she can explain the situation. She says the twins were practically adopted by her mother and they never showed any gratitude, not even when she died. Just then, Smoke arrives through the back and overhears the conversation. He tells Mary that he did send dozens and dozens of flowers for her funeral. Then he goes to find Stack and asks him to be the one to escort her out. Stack approaches her and asks her to leave, but she only wants to know one thing. Why did he suddenly walk away if he had sworn that he loved her? Finally, Stack tells her that he still loves her, but his life basically that of a criminal, and she's too good for him. That's why they can't be together. The Party goes on and Sammy starts playing his guitar. Thanks to his incredible talent, everyone starts dancing to his rhythm. But at the same time, his gift draws the attention of Remick and two other vampires. They arrive at the bar's entrance and try to come in, but the guard refuses to let them in, saying they don't belong there. When they refuse to leave, the Moore brothers, the owners, come to the door and also ask them to go. However, the three strangers say they just want to have fun and sing for the crowd. They begin playing their guitars to show they know how to perform, but they're still rejected and turned away. As they leave, they mention they'll be nearby in case the owners change their minds. Inside, people are uneasy about these three men, sensing it might be a trap and more could show up soon. Still, they say they're ready with weapons if anything happens. Despite all the fun, it seems the bar isn't doing well financially. Local workers are paying with low-value coins. This leads Mary to talk to Smoke, offering to speak with the white men who came to visit and figure out their real intention, if they actually have money and plan to spend it there. When she gets to them, she hears them playing a beautiful song and asks if they really have money. They show her 2 gold coins, each worth more than all the small change being spent inside the bar. But suddenly, Mary notices Remick's eyes glowing and sees his long fang. She quickly tries to get back to the bar. When she arrives, she asks to be let in, but her face has changed. She finds Stack and asks him to go somewhere private so they can be alone. Meanwhile, Smoke tells Sammy to go find his twin brother because he needs him back at the business. When Sammy finds him with Mary, he doesn't want to interrupt, so he returns to tell Smoke that his brother is busy. Since it's urgent, Smoke goes himself. When he finds Stack, he's on the floor. Mary is biting him. Realizing his brother is bleeding out, Smoke shoots at Mary, but the bullets have no effect. She stands up and screams that they're all going to die. They tell all the guests to leave the party, and Annie tells Smoke they need to get rid of the body. This has become something supernatural, and it's dangerous to keep it there. Smoke refuses, trembling from the grief of losing his brother. They lock him in a room with the body. Smoke then runs into the man they hired as security, who wasn't around during Stack's murder. When he questions him, they realize the guard is acting strangely. Annie, who we know has knowledge of the supernatural, suspects the guard has also been bitten and is now part of whatever is going on. Suddenly, the guard tries to attack Smoke, but he manages to shoot him. They immediately shut the door and realize they're now in serious danger. But suddenly, they hear Stack. He's come back to life and is locked in the room. He begs them to let him out, and even though Smoke wants to open the door because it's his beloved brother, Annie pleads with him not to do it. She says that, from the sound of his voice, Stack is no longer the same. He's been infected. Just then, Stack breaks out and tries to attack the others, but Annie manages to throw garlic water on him, burning his face. Everyone is terrified. Annie explains that garlic water harms vampires, and since it worked on Stack, what they're dealing with is definitely vamp. She then tells Smoke that if she ends up getting bitten, he has to let her die. She wants to reunite with her daughter and refuses to live on Earth as a vampire. They then notice the vampires outside playing music and celebrating as if they're getting ready to break in. Annie suggests that everyone still inside eat a clove of garlic to prove they're still human and haven't been turned. Some refuse, but Smoke threatens them. It's important that everyone takes tests. A man outside desperately begs them to open the door and let him in, but just as they go to open it, another vampire attacks him. Then one of the vampires approaches and asks his wife, who's inside, to come out so they can leave together. But just like the others, he's clearly been turned. Inside, things are spiraling out of control. One of the vampires threatens that if they don't come out of the bar, they'll go after their families and turn them too. One of the women inside dares the vampires to come in and fight, preparing for battle. Once the vampires get inside, chaos breaks out as the humans fight to stay alive. But Annie is bitten, and Smoke is forced to keep his promise. He has to end her life before she turns. The vampire leader then goes after Sammy direct, but Smoke jumps in to protect him and tells him to run. Stack, Smoke's infected twin, attacks him for defending Sammy, and a brutal fight begins between the brothers. Meanwhile, the vampire leader heads outside to find Sammy. He wants to turn him because of his music, obsessed with the beauty of Sammy's playing. All the vampires begin to gather for the turning, singing a haunting song. Just before Remick can bite Sammy, Smoke drives a stake through his back, killing the creature. Suddenly, dawn breaks, and the sunlight destroys the remaining vampire. Afterward, Smoke talks to Sammy and tells him to try to forget everything that happened. He suggests that if Sammy loves music, he should use his talent to play Christian music at church with his father. He urges him to go. Meanwhile, Smoke has other things he needs to take care of, and that's when we see Sammy return to the church, badly wounded, following his cousin's advice. Meanwhile, Smoke heads to the bar and realizes the man who sold it to them has come back to reclaim the property. Apparently, all the chaos with the vampires was part of his plan all along. Smoke hides with a long rifle and begins taking out each and every one of them. However, he also gets shot and starts bleeding out. He refuses medical help. He has a vision of his wife and daughter who are calling him to join them. Smoke lets himself die right there, ready to be with them again. Later, we're shown the future. Sammy, now an old man, is still devoted to music. One night, he gets some unexpected visitors. Stack and his girlfriend Mary, who are still vampires and will live forever. They've come to see their cousin and offer to bite him so he can be saved from a sickness he has and live forever like them. But Sammy turns them down. He wants to die in peace. Still, he plays an old song, one Stack used to love back when he was human. That's how they say goodbye, remembering that night before all the vampire madness as the best night of their lives.